Okay, do you remember that number I threw out? The most important number in the world. What was it? 2 to 250 trillion. So do you think Jerome Powell or Janet Yellen, thought I saw a putty cap, okay? You think they're fast enough on the draw to print that much money ahead of time fast enough? You think they're gunslingers? You think they got the to do that? And do you think people will let them? If after we just printed more money in 1 year and more fiscal stimulus than the whole past cycle, and we still fall into recession again, and that's the key. We have to fall, economy has to weaken, or the markets have to weaken to trigger this. But if that happens again, do you think people are going to say, well, why don't we do the same thing we did before? Duh. The people say, well, maybe you do. As soon as this thing cracks, all I think it takes is that 47%. That's a megaphone pattern. You want to argue with that? Good luck. It's one of the most reliable patterns. A 47% crash in the S&P, which means 50-some% in the NASDAQ, I think will tell people will wake up and say, oh, this really doesn't work. And then when they come up and say, well, now we're going to print 10 or 20, people are going to go say, I'm not going to say the words they would say. Okay? You know what it would be. But they just printed 10 times the rate they did before, and it didn't do much for the economy except for restore a quick downturn, and it didn't create any inflation, which is the target. But somebody has to let it, they can't just print money. I mean, what if people start rioting in the streets and say, I'm sorry, you guys, we let you do this for 12 years and it failed. I think people are smart enough, even though they're on crack, everybody's on crack here, okay? Even everyday people are getting a 3% mortgage when it ought to be 6 or 7, getting a 2% car loan when it ought to be 7 or 8 with higher risk. Everybody's high, everybody's getting a benefit. The economy has lower unemployment than would have if we hadn't printed 30-some trillion dollars and now tens of trillions of fiscal stimulus. So I think people will get it, but that is where I could be wrong. I think they'll wake up. What I found about people, when the barn's burning, people get real smart and they become heroes overnight. They run in and save the baby and the horse and run out. They quit being an everyday dumbass Homer Simpson and they do the right thing. I think a crisis is going to wake people up, and I think it's going to come in the next few months with that first 47% crash. And if that doesn't happen, then I have to recalculate. Let me tell you about money printing. Percent of GDP, something real. How much is Japan printed? 128 last I looked, probably more by now. We're the best house in a bad neighborhood. Oh, China doesn't print as much money because they are busy printing condos. They're building shit for nobody. That's the worst thing you can do. Overcapacity. You know that China went from 20 to 60% urban in 3 decades, the fastest of any major country. But today, China is dead. They did the worst money printing. We're the best house in a bad neighborhood. That's why I say when the you-know-what hits the fan, like it did in 2008 with Lehman Brothers, dollar up, other currencies down. We're going to go up, and I will bet half of my career on that. Not forever, just in the crisis. And the treasury bonds with them, up, not gold. Yeah, I think you've already seen most of the recovery because you had a big hit to spending, businesses and consumers. Businesses were failing, and they just gave everybody money. Consumers, business, everything, and they just spent it somewhere. A lot of business just paid people to do nothing, which, by the way, that's what they do in Japan all the time. To cover over deflation and stuff. So I think you've already seen most of the recovery. Even when the vaccine maybe starts to work increasingly, I think the economy is going to collapse before then. I think it's ready to collapse now. And I love Jeremy Grantham finally have somebody agreeing with me on that this bubble just can't go much further no matter what they do, because it's just hit that diminishing returns point and that euphoria point where everybody's going to invest is in, and then it turns the other way and there's no way to stop it. So I think that this is an illusion by the markets on crack. Markets are always going to look for the reason to go up. It'll go down for a week and they'll say, oh, but it's really good because, they're going to have to print more money or something's going to happen. No, that's not what happens. You have to pay the piper at some point. The point I'm trying to make, and we haven't seen it yet, and when we see it, it'll become obvious. If we see it, and I do think we're going to see it, when deflation really sets in, it's this spiral you can't stop.
Before we continue, help us by smashing that YouTube like button and subscribe now to this channel. This shows the algorithm that you value the information, and it helps us spread this message. Sharing is caring. Please like and subscribe now. Thank you. And now, let's continue.
Okay, debts start to fail, and then businesses start to fail, and that causes banks start to fail, and they both lay off people, and then people spend less, and then that causes more businesses and banks and loans. But that's what happened in the 30s. This thing spiraled down so quick. That's how 62, now that's a fact, 62% of private debt, right out of Dalio's chart, disappeared in a matter of most of that in a few years. And that, how do you fight that with inflation? There is no inflation to fight that. There is no money printing. There's no trick to fight that. Once that avalanche starts happening, see, everything's been to keep that don't let the market go down too much. Don't let the economy slow too much. And they were really heroic on this. It's all to keep the avalanche from starting. Once it starts, and I'm just suggesting this, we'll see if it's right later. Once it starts, I say there's no stopping it. And then deflation will be everything Jim and I have been talking about. People should fear deflation more than inflation. Hyperinflation and deflation are the two worst scenarios. This is important to understand. We've already been in this depression phase. They've been fighting it with money printing. I'm saying the depression's going to be over in 2 to 3 years. I agree. Gold will come out of this strong, and gold will boom for a long time into the next 30-year cycle, into the whole growth of Asia. So I'm just saying the next 2 to 3 years is going to be the backside 29 to 32 instead of the front side. We already had the front side GFC, like the 37, 38. That's the difference. This thing's going to be over. The demographics get better after that in a lot of countries, and gold will be a huge beneficiary of clearing out this debt and growing again, especially because Asia is going to be the big growth area, and Asians love gold. It's impossible to create high inflation. The demographics and high debt all argue for low inflation to deflation in the years ahead. I don't see how you create enough inflation to get gold to 12 to 15,000. Now, what I would see is possible if the collapse was severe enough, which I do see, by the way, obviously, is that if people say, well, wait a minute, we got to have some standard here, and it ain't going to be Bitcoin. Maybe 10, 20 years ago, it ain't going to be Bitcoin, okay? It's the most volatile asset on earth. And by the way, gold's almost as volatile as stock, so it's not a stable asset in these days either. But if they came to the conclusion, we got to have a standard for now, and gold became it, then that would be the case for gold going up for some period of time, but that's going to come at the end of the crash. I'm trying to protect people here. I'm just being really honest. For the next 2 to 3 years, what I call the crash of a lifetime, on a 90-year cycle that's the most potent, you've got to get through this, preserve your assets, and if you're in deflation-friendly investments like long-term treasuries, stuff, you can make money to have more money to invest at bargain prices in the best places, and it will. I'm sorry, I did say before, crystal clear, China's done. East Asia's had its boom. It is Southeast Asia and India, and there's more people in that part of Asia than the others, and it doesn't mean the other ones go bankrupt, they just don't grow as much. So you can still have, Asia is going to dominate the economy. I'll stand by that one because that's pure demographics. US is plateauing, Europe is dying, East Asia is dying as fast as Europe, including China. China's going to go from 1.4 billion down to 1 billion by the end of this century. So even China's going to be deflating. So I don't say you create high inflation, but if gold became a standard again, that would be a reason.
What to do in such a situation? Inform yourself and keep your financial education strong. We from the Compact Group offer our loyal subscribers a free educational portal with first-hand monetary, financial, and economic knowledge. Enter our invite-only Insider Club by clicking the link below. You will get access to first-class information far earlier than the rest. We have prepared a special deal for all our members where you can access a giant pool of Robert Kiyosaki's financial wisdom for just $1. To find out more, simply click the link below and join our Insider Club absolutely free. But there is more you can and should do. Build up several streams of income. More and more people realize that they have to take their future in their own hands, but they don't know how and where to start. We from Compact offer our Insider Club members unique opportunities. Strengthen your financial muscle and get the edge. Click the link below. Become part of our free Insider Club. No financial obligations. But there's one important thing you have to know. you have to become active. So do it now. Become active and see you on the other side.